Mike, is Mike here yet? He's walking the dog. So Mike, the owner of the Sullivan, is going to be joining me, and he just there he is. Hey, how you doing, buddy? You want to come do a show with me?
Sure. Hold on.
That's fine. Take your time. Take your time. We got Mike coming in. Mike, he is, while you do that, I'll just tell people who you are. Not that I need to. If they're from Sanford, they know you. If you've been anywhere near Sanford nightlife, hospitality, you have to know Mike. The Current, the Sullivan, a project that will be named later by probably him, I'm assuming, and just everywhere. Sofa Suds, one of my favorite events in town, is a Mike Smith special. So I'm pretty stoked about hearing what the next step for, because the Sullivan is next door to a place that was called the Washburn Imports, and they sold furniture, really high end furniture, and they also sold beer and craft cocktails, very good craft cocktails. There's actually the one of the dudes that was the bartender over there is now next door. So it's all very much very Sanford, very mom and pop, and the Sullivan has been around. The Sullivan's been has been around since when? 2018? Since October of 2018, the Sullivan, and it's, like I said, in the middle of downtown Sanford. So doing the second episode right here is only appropriate. And with that, I'm gonna bring my homie. Here's Mike Smith. Give it up for Mike. What's up, buddy? Good. Come on in. Come on into your bar. Sit down. How are things? Yeah? Get right up on the mic. Get right up on the mic.
Business,
Yeah. You've been around for a minute. Like we talked earlier, and
nice way to say old.
I didn't say old. You said old, man. You said old. I did not say.
The audience is going old.
Oh, yeah.
Old.
So, but you've been around here. How long have you been in Sanford?
I moved here August of 2012 with the sole purpose of a project which was opening the Imperial.
Okay. So you were next door. You were doing the bar next door, right?
True. Yep.
That's awesome. Okay. So that was your first venture here?
In a roundabout way, I was in the craft beer business some years before that, and I had been coming up to Sanford to try to sell craft beer in Sanford in the 2000s, which was impossible at that time.
Yeah, that's the craft beer boom.
Yeah, that was before. It was right before the boom. Yeah,
right before,
we were a little ahead of that.
Yeah,
and in Sanford, I used to always joke, Sanford had 12 bars with the same 12 beers. And
it's true.
And the crack into that 12 beer rotation was very, very difficult.
Yeah, it's and now, well, you freaking made it so that this place is a beer and food, and this place is known for that kind of thing now. We talked in the first episode about how this place was, when I grew up here, I moved to Central Florida in 91, and Sanford was the place where you got your drugs and you left, you know? Yep. When I moved here from the DR, it was a complete culture shock. Where did you move here from?
I'll keep it short. I was coming back from Portland, Maine. I was up there for the summer.
Yeah.
And I was on a train ride down back to Orlando, and I texted an old friend who, we had been talking about projects here and there for a while.
Yeah.
And the next day after I got back to Winter Park, we went to lunch. He talked me into opening the first craft beer bar in Seminole County, rather. And it was a good enough challenge to have to try to take. Knowing the conditions in this area and and the climate in this area. So I did it. So anyways, I came from Portland, Maine, but I had been in Orlando for a few years.
Nice. What was the first thing that made you feel like a townie here in Sanford?
That's a good one.
The thing that, because I can't think of an event that is more Sanford than Sofa Suds.
Yeah.
When I saw the first Sofa Suds, I was like, I don't see this shit anywhere else.
Right.
Is that still the case? Are there? Because I know that there are other porch fests around the world.
I check once in a while to see if there's anything out there. Because I get all the time. I get people going, "No, you should do this. You should do that." And I'm like, "Hey, man, you're acting like there's better couch racing somewhere else." And we're not doing.
Yeah, we're the only game in town, dude.
And we're slacking off. I go, we're the best couch racing operation in the world, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
But before I got to Sanford officially and before Portland, Maine, I was in the beer business in Orlando, so I was coming up here to try to sell beer, and I got to know Gary. He was at the time, I believe at the time he was working at Ken's Wine Bar, but might have been doing he might have been starting a homebrew shop at that point.
Yeah.
And then I started getting to know some locals like Ken, who opened Ken's Wine Company. And this and that. And so I started doing little mini events up here because I had a beer bus at the time, and I was bringing people up, and I was doing these little you had to trick people back in the day to drink craft beer. You had to trick them. You had to do this cool event.
Really?
And then when they got there, you had to go, hey, guess what? We don't have Bud and Bud Light. We got this and this and this, and and then you had to deal with some some hurt feelings, and this and that.
Yeah.
But that's what we had to do back then. So I started coming to Sanford and doing these kind of little events and things like that, and I kind of started looking around, going, this place has got it's got the framework.
Yeah.
It's got the the bricks, and it's got the sidewalks, to do something really cool up here, and it never left my mind. And so when the opportunity presented itself for me to open a bar here, I took it.
I think that, and I've said this before, but I think Sanford is Winter Park with better bones. Winter Park with better bones and less like hoity-toity.
Yeah, Botox.
Less Botox. That's true. A lot less silicone. Having something like couch races, like Porch Fest, like things like that, makes this place more than just every other brick town,
True.
Brick road town.
Yep.
Because you have a million of those. There's a million of those around here. There's a million of those around here that are trying to do what we're doing.
That's true, and there's a million that are a fake town. They're fake from the ground up, built in the last 20 years.
Sure.
But back to that though. I like that point you just made.
Yeah.
There are a million other towns that are looking at what we did in the last 12, 15, 20 years even.
Yeah.
And they're blatantly
just ripping it off.
Yeah, just going. There's an event down a couple towns over.
Yeah.
That use like the buzzwords from like 3 of our big events here in town.
Of course,
I'm not going to name them because I do like what they do.
Yeah.
I am appreciative of what they're doing.
Sure.
But it's like, man, you're not even trying to be, you're not even trying to.
And that's the problem, man. The problem is the lack of originality. But you know what? What does they say? What is it that they say?
Flattery.
Flattery.
Crap.
Yeah. Imitation is the best. The best form of flattery. It's all right.
Bad.
I'm going to ask you this because I think.
Oh, you're setting me up.
So, and I'm going to ask Christina this: what is the weirdest, or what is the most crazy permit issue you've had?
I wish I'd have read your email now. I saw it, and I hadn't gotten to it yet. Actually, it's on my list here.
Oh, okay.
Somewhere is Wayne email. I knew I should look at it. You said craziest permit thing?
Really, dude? Like this?
Yeah, so you're getting into Sanford has a reputation as far as being difficult to open and this and that. And I've had some things here and there, but if you're asking me what was the craziest? Like you opened up your email and you're like, denied for really? Yeah, there's a few, and a few of us here in town are starting to look inward and go, you know what, we weren't that good at applying for permits, back.
Okay, so there's been a back and forth.
We're trying to meet in the middle. We're trying to
diplomacy.
Extend,
what?
Yeah. Well, we're all getting old now, or we were old and we're older. But we're trying to figure it out and smooth out the cracks and things like that. But the craziest one, actually, topical in the building that we're in. Yeah, I've opened five businesses in town.
Yeah.
When I built the Sullivan in 2018, 2017, I started it.
Yeah.
Putting a kitchen in here was very difficult. If you look straight back, you see that balcony back there that goes back to the original build out, 1910.
Before you say that, is it a grease trap issue?
That would be second crazy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I just keep hearing about I have no idea. Yeah. I've spent 2 weeks in the food business.
Yeah.
And actually doing food. And I've never heard of a grease trap until I moved to Sanford, and people are like, this place has been on hold for 7 years or whatever. Or not that long.
And that goes back to just the existing sewer systems, and it goes back 100 years of shortcomings and unfortunately, and I'll say it, unfortunately, some of the local businesses come in, and all the local businesses coming in have to help lessen the strain or not put more strain onto the sewer system. So
Sure.
whether you need a grease trap or not, I can get into the details of that and I can nitpick, but you can't open now without a grease trap of some sort because the sewers are pretty fragile here. And it's a monumental project to get it all up to speed and 100%. And I might hear something from that comment. But anyways,
see, I didn't want to get you in trouble. I'm sorry.
No, but I know what you're doing. I get excitable.
What? But here's the thing: the reason. Honestly, dude, part of the reason why I'm doing stuff like this is because of the punk rock attitude that you have.
Yeah.
Because I have that too. So like when something's
another way to say old, by the way.
Oh my god,
that's two.
Oh my god, it's not. I did not call you old. I'm 43, dude.
Oh, I remember that.
I'm an old man.
Oh, those were the days.
Those were the days. I think that there is people joke with me that. Hippies are punks when they get old turn to hippies.
Yeah,
and I refuse.
That was our role model. That was our
generational.
Yeah,
for sure. So like, I think that for me, I am bucking that.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that like, and if anything, I'd be a Florida hippie because Florida hippies carry. Florida hippies don't mind throwing hands.
Yeah.
That's that type of hippie I can deal with.
You put Florida in front of anything.
Yeah.
It gets just a little rougher.
Exactly, and I'm okay with that. Like that's about as close to hippiness as I get. But I think that there is a level of of necessity for people like us, like kids that grew up in punk that like. Know that like we need to be active, especially locally, and more importantly, locally than nationally, because this is what deals. This is how it affects our day to day.
Right.
So, I do. I did ask you those questions because I felt like you're gonna get excitable, but
yeah.
But also because it's necessary.
Yeah.
Those voices are necessary, just like the pat on the backs, the attaboys are necessary.
Yeah, those are nice.
Yeah, those are very nice. But I think that we need to hold our employees accountable.
Yeah. And that's just it. We don't. Here's a vibe I get.
Sure.
And this comes from me getting a parking ticket at City Hall recently, which really set my old man triggers off pretty hard.
Yeah. Should have called you then.
You don't go to City Hall for fun.
No.
You don't go there to loiter, and to hang out in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
You go there to
tailgating at City Hall.
Is this a PG or
go for it?
You go there to do shit. You go there to get shit done. I went there that day for for business, 2 business issues and my home issue.
Okay.
And they had just, I'll make this short, but I'm in a rambling mode.
No, it's all good, dude.
But, I went down there, to handle a couple things, and they had just reconfigured a parking lot, and they made most of the parking lot employee parking because they've taken a lot of parking away.
Yeah.
And the signs for the employee parking and for the public parking are very similar. And I circled the lot twice, and I read the signs for public parking. They were all full. I circled a lot. I saw the same exact sign, except for it turns out one word was different.
Yeah.
I pulled in. I've been parking there for 12 years.
Yeah.
I went in there. I was inside for 11 minutes. My time stamp was 10:11 a.m. My parking ticket stamp was 10:12 a.m.
Oh my
So someone
God.
was bird dogging me.
Yep.
When I pulled in the lot.
Are they that bored?
Exactly right.
Like,
and there's parking. The irony is there's parking all around that block. There's parking at the courthouse that's open 24/7.
Yeah.
And this that. Anyways, where were we going with this whole
No,
thing? Because
your frustration.
You're good. You're good. Yeah.
It's about being able to speak out and about not, because there is a lot of fear I hear when it comes to speaking out, because people, again, it's the permit thing. People, and I think that as somebody who doesn't have to like pull permits or anything like that, I don't have a dog in the permit fight, but I do have a dog in the let's talk about how to make this place better and because at the end of the day, indirectly, permits affect me.
Oh yeah.
There are businesses right now that are wanting to hire me that cannot hire me because they don't have a fucking grease trap or something.
Yep.
And so that's why I do this. That's why I started doing this show.
And you're catching us at a great time because a lot of us got here. I was already older when I got here, but right away, Paul Williams and I, boom,
shout out Paul. Shout out Paul.
Best friends. Closing down the West End back when he was single.
Yeah.
And we, it was, and that's when we just popped off, and we didn't care about those kind of things. We didn't care about permitting. We were more, like you said, we were more punk rock.
Yeah.
And we just did stuff until they told us we had to do a permit.
Yep.
And then now, and rightly so, the city is getting a handle on things, and hit or miss, right or they're trying. They're trying, but they're not meeting and keeping up with what's happening.
Well, I think that's
the frustration.
That's a problem, but that's not a problem that's unique to Sanford. That's a problem like nationally.
Yeah.
People are not, the governments, local governments are not spending money on the infrastructure that's necessary, but they just want it to grow. And they want it to grow and be like, all right, well, we're growing and that's it. And and that's bullshit. I'm sorry. Like, I am not the type to mince words. So, and maybe that's why I don't get a lot of the contracts that I could get.
Right. But you're asking about the difficulty of
permitting.
And it's just, I feel like the city's not keeping up with the progress, and you see a bunch of projects, and this is, we've been beating this one up for about a year now. A lot of projects in town that are taking 1, 2, and 3 years to get open.
Yeah.
And is it permitting? Yeah. They have some answers, questions to answer, but is it people who are new to the industry also trying to open up something? Yeah.
Also,
it's a little bit of that.
Sure. That's fair.
So, in fairness, with the city, we've been beating them up I've been beating them up since I got here.
Yeah.
In fairness to the city, they're trying, but I just want to see more collaboration, more, when you have 5, just 2 months ago, there were 5 businesses just on this block that you can eyeball right here from the seat. That had paper in the windows.
Wow.
If you were running any department in the city that had to do with growth and permitting, wouldn't you go down there and knock on their door and go, what do you need today? What's missing between you and us? And let's get you open. I'd like to see something like that happen.
What's the name? Oh, that 1888 admitted place right across the street.
Oh, right here?
What's the story? What's the story with that place?
It's in my opinion, based on what I've seen for almost 13 years on this block.
Sure.
It's a glorified storage unit.
Yeah, I don't see anything.
With advertisements for another business, or for whatever their organization is, which is supposed to be Gamblers Anonymous type of thing, which fantastic. But is that the best use of that space?
No.
And then you're gonna scrutinize something I'm doing in my front window when I actually draw hundreds of people to town.
Exactly.
You're gonna measure my sign and tell me I'm an inch off and this and that when you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 banners right now we're looking at promoting a business that's not in downtown Sanford.
That is insane.
So that that's a little awkward right now.
Yeah.
Now that you pointed it out.
I'm
so used to looking at it, I don't see it anymore.
But you know what? Our lesson in contrast starts now. What's your favorite thing about Sanford?
We're still not. We didn't finish up with my my most awkward story.
Okay, most awkward. Then let's go. Yeah.
It's this place right here. I tried to put a kitchen in here.
Yes.
Back in 2017.
Yeah.
And again, if you look at that balcony back there.
Yep.
That's original to 1910. The build out in this building. This was an old department store. If you look down in all these storefronts down here to the east.
Yep.
They all have balconies in the. Are we running out of time?
No.
They all have balconies in the back. That's because these were all department stores in 1910.
Oh, okay.
And they put their cashiers up there to thwart getting robbed.
Because you could see
because you had to run all the way back, run up the stairs, rob them, and then run all the way back out of the store again. So we all have these balconies in the back of the building, which mine extends all the way through to the other side, which used to be the Imperial.
Yep.
And so that was the cashier up there. So the clearance on the first floor between the ground and the bottom of the balcony is 6 feet 6 inches.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry, 6 feet 3 inches and an eighth. And so I went to the city and told them I want to put a kitchen in. And they would come out and look at it and say, your ceiling's too low. And I'm okay, well, what's the number? What do you need? What am I shooting for here? Oh, we don't know. Okay, so cool. So I reapply again, and ceiling's too low. What's the number? What am I shooting for? I can shave off. I can lift this. I can shave the floor a little bit. I can do whatever. It's an inch or two. I can make it happen. No one knew. And then, anyways, one day, I had the fire chief in here one day for another topic. Yeah. And I grabbed him like real quick. I go, hey man, I'm having trouble with this, and he looked at it, and he was a tall guy back then, he was probably hitting his head on it, and he looked at it, and he goes, you can put a kitchen in here, and I'm like, I need your help, let's go get this done, and I got approved for it, and so subsequently after that, I had to build the kitchen in that little tiny space, and I had to put a hood system in, and so when you put a hood system in, you have to have an exhaust, and the code is your exhaust has to go above your rooftop. Okay. As to not, put flammable grease on your building. Yeah. Like that. Hey, folks, come on in. Yep. We're open, but we're doing a radio show, so we'll be done soon now. You're welcome to come in. You just have to hear our voices. Right. So we went round and around about the hood, and that took months, and then the grease trap that took months, and of course they made us get the biggest grease trap we can fit in the alley. So anyways, we put the hood system in, and the hood goes up. This is a pretty tall building for 2 stories. There's a big overhead here. This is 16 feet high, and upstairs is the same, and so we're almost a 3.5 story building, but only 2 stories. Yeah. And so I had to run a hood all the way up to above the roof line in the back of the building on the alleyway, which is what alleyways are for. That's what alleyways are for. Okay. So we're open.
I didn't know that.
We're open for it's for the garbage. It's for hoods. It's for, it's not meant to be looked at historically. Aesthetically. So we got the hood in, and we're open for 6 months or so, and then then we get an email. From the Historical Society and this and that, and an HPB, and which is Historic Preservation Board. Yeah. And they're concerned about our hood system, and they're looking into it about, we don't like it. I'm like, well, that ship sailed. We got the approvals. Yeah. And I used to be on the Historic Trust and things like that. I'm all into it. I have the 10th oldest house in town. That's awesome. I think asterisk. Don't call me out, guys. And so we had to go back in front of the board to defend our hood system, which cost $19,000 to put in. Yeah, because they were pushing.
Because they approved it already.
It had been approved through the proper channel. It wasn't approved by HPB probably, but we got approved by the fire department, the city, the state. And everything we had to do to get open. So we had done our hard work and spent our money. Yeah. And so they wanted it down, and so we had to fight that, and it was just that was to me kind of jolting a little bit.
That's strange, and the thing is that it's that the crazy part is that like $19,000 is a lot of dough.
That's still a lot of dough. Yeah, in today's So especially when you're getting open and you've already spent
another
whatever it is.
It's so like that's why I think it's important that we should talk about this because at some point. Somebody else is going to benefit from us being able to do that, and probably catching a little shit because we're speaking our mind, but hopefully doing it in a fair way.
I always try to be fair, but
we try. So, what is what's your favorite thing about Sanford? What keeps you here, man? What'd you say? Yeah.
Yeah. My fantastic staff here at the Sullivan.
Yes.
I can never leave them ever. And but no, I bought a house 12 years ago at the right time to buy a house, and
so a mortgage is keeping you here.
No, well, I bought it at the worst time to buy a house.
That's true.
As far as the conditions.
For sure.
But now the market's doing me well. But I've always wanted to live in a small town. I moved around a lot. You asked me the other day about where I grew up and where I was born and crap. And I was a military kid.
Okay, yep.
I traveled. I went to 9 schools. You made me count the other day. I went to 9 schools by the time I got to high school in Orlando, Florida. So I jumped around. I was always traveling. I was born on the road. My parents, which
you were saying that.
Whenever I meet them again, I'm going to ask. First question I got for them is like, why the F did you drive across country 9 months pregnant? And they did it. Which I kind of the way I am now. I'm like, they're punk rock too. Maybe I don't know. But so I've always lived in all these little towns, and I'd get to see them for 6 months, a year and a half, 2 years, however long we were there. And then I had to pick up and go again. It was just as I started getting attached to it, and just I started getting familiar.
That's rough.
And so I grew up jealous of people who lived in a small town all their lives and
knew everybody, and
front porches and picket fences, which I have now. So maybe I was overcompensating. When I got here, I'm like, I got a chance to do all that, and I'm doing it.
I think it's awesome.
I am doing it. But now it's I'm crossing over that line from younger to the next level, and I don't want to be.
You're like 5 minutes older than me, dude. I don't know what you're talking about. No.
Anyways, it's fast. I am enjoying it. On the flip side, small town living is also got its negatives. Everyone,
for sure,
everyone's all up in your shit.
Everybody knows.
Everyone
oh my
knows,
god.
Everyone knows that. When
we're gonna be. We're definitely gonna be talking about dating in the small town that is Sanford with Joe Badger right now. So that's gonna be good. What's next for the Sullivan? What do we got going on? I saw Curtis Earth is back.
Yeah, we brought him up here. I've known Curtis for going on 25 years now. I've known Curtis, and he's such a pro. To me, he's for lack of better, not even for lack of better. That was an accidental slight. He's the gold standard of trivia shows in this area for 25, 30, almost 30 years.
Yeah, man.
I met him when I first got back from living in Chicago, and I moved back in 2003 from Chicago, and I met him, and I'm like, man, this guy, I've been to a bunch of trivia shows at some hipster pubs in Chicago, and there's arguing, fighting, and errors on the scorekeeping by the host, and I meet Curtis Earth, who sits up there behind his podium, and he's got all his shit set up, and he's got his music timed out, and then this now I'm like, this guy, you feel like you're
pro.
You feel like you're at
a game show, on a game show.
And so I've always loved that guy, and when I was in the beer business, we crossed paths and did some collaboration, and here and there we did some trivia bus shows, to Tampa, to a Tampa Rays game, because you have a captive audience on a bus for 2.5 hours.
For 2.5 hours,
you got to pacify them, or else they'll turn on you real quick. So so we did things like that, and so I've always dreamt of owning some pubs, and I had them for a year in my restaurant in Orlando, and we kind of outgrew, we both outgrew that space, and so I brought him up here.
Yeah.
So he started residency here, and he's here for about another 10 and a half months or so. He's up here now on Monday nights at 7 p.m. in the Sullivan in Sanford.
Hell yeah, man. And where can people find stuff for the Sullivan? The Sullivan Public House on IG, Facebook, and anywhere else?
Admittedly, I'm probably a little bit behind on that kind of stuff, but Instagram, Facebook, we're both on there. But we're an Irish pub. Just come on down. Don't
the fish and chips are phenomenal.
Don't look for this. Don't wait for $1 off of something. We're an Irish pub. We always have specials going on. We always have something cool going on. We have a beautiful room here.
It's so good.
Main reason why I had the chance to buy this thing, I had to take it. It was like I built this thing. It's beautiful.
It's a gorgeous pub.
Just come on down. Don't wait for 25 cents off something or other. Just come on down to the Sullivan. It's an Irish pub. You'll fit right in no matter what time it is.
Oh yeah. Dude, thank you so much for being a part of the show, man.
Thanks for having me.
You are a Sanford OG, and I'm glad to have you on. I can't wait to have you on again. And man.
Thanks for all you do.
Thanks, buddy. Dude, I'll see you next time. All right, next